Hello, I'm Bo, and welcome back to another episode of Final FMC, my horror-themed TBR game where I get to play as a final girl trying to survive a killer TBR every month. I travel around this board using a six-sided die and drawing prompt cards based on the spaces that I land on. There are 5 space types on the board: killers, weapons, locations, victims, and plot twists. My TBR is complete when the killer drops to 0 lives. For a full in-depth overview of every single rule in the game, you can go back to my very first TBR video that I'll have linked here and in the description box down below. There is also a free print and play version that you can download in case you want to play the game for yourself. Now, whether you are brand new to my TBR game or you've been around for a while, I want to let you know that I have some really exciting news coming up very soon. I'm going to give you a hint and just say to be on the lookout for an announcement video probably in the next couple of weeks. That's all I'm going to say for now. Before we get into this month's TBR game, we have to look at the epilogue phase from the previous month. However, I did not play my Final FMC game in July, so we're going to have to go back to my June TBR. Now remember, during the epilogue phase, I lose 1 life for every book that I did not read from my TBR. If I happen to have saved any victims or collected any location cards, I could potentially regain any lost lives. But if my final girl drops to 0 lives, the killer wins. But if my final girl has at least 1 life remaining, the killer will be defeated and removed from the game. Now let's see how I did back in June. For June, I used my final girl, the Seer, in honor of the Tarot Readathon, and her prompt is to pull a tarot card and read a book in relation to that card. So I chose the book Annie Bot by Sierra Greer, and I'm happy to say that I did complete and enjoy that book. Now moving on, the killer for the month of June was the Mime. Now this is a killer that is modeled after Art the Clown from the movie Terrifier, and the first prompt I had to read to escape from this killer was to read a book that had a serial killer. For this prompt, I chose The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim, and although I was so excited to get to that book, I did not read it. So this causes me to lose my first life. For my first roll of the game, I landed on a victim space, which means that this victim goes into the killer's body count because I did not have a weapon in order to fight off the killer and save the victim. The victim I got was the babysitter, and her prompt is to read a YA or middle grade book. For that one, it looks like I added Camila Nunez's Year of Disasters by Miriam Zoila Perez. This is a book that I saw at the library and wanted to pick up, but I did not end up going back and getting the book, so I'm going to lose another life. Now the next space I landed on was another killer prompt, and because I still did not have a weapon, I had to escape from the killer and read another one of his prompts. So for this one, I chose the prompt Extreme Horror or Splatterpunk, and I put Made a Monster by Rob Nelson back on my TBR, and once again, I did not actually read the book. After that, I landed on another killer space, which ended the game for me. Again, I had no weapon and was forced to escape from the killer, which means I had to read another one of his prompts. And so the final prompt on his card was to read a book with a demonic entity. And for that one, I chose Come Closer by Sarah Gran. There's an audiobook, and I think it's only like 3 hours long. You would assume that I would have had no problem getting around to this book, right? Unfortunately, I did not read this book either. Not that it matters because I'm already at 0 lives and my final girl is deceased. This means that the Mime is going back in the killer deck and he's going to be returning for a sequel at a later date. Now, luckily, there's a mechanic in my game where final girls that are dead do have 1 chance to come back. Now, this is called a second chance mechanic. So in order to play her again in the future, if I do pull her card, I will just have to roll on the second chance table for her to come back. Now, if she dies 1 more time, she is out of the game completely. Let me pull up my overall stats so you can see where I'm at so far. 7 out of 14 killers have been defeated, 8 victims have gone to the killer's body count, 5 victims have been saved, and only 4 out of the 6 final girls are currently alive. So now that I've completed the epilogue phase for the month of June, let's jump into the game for August's TBR and hope that it goes much better than last time. So this month, I chose the nerd as my final girl. And as you saw in my overall stats, the nerd is technically dead right now. So that means I have to roll on the second chance table to resurrect her and give her that second chance opportunity to come back into the game. So as you can see, the second chance table means I need to roll an 8-sided die and add an extra book to my TBR this month, following the prompt that I get on the table. This prompt is Hell Hath No Fury. Read a book that involves feminine rage or revenge. This means the nerd is really angry that she got killed, and she is out for revenge this time around. I'm loving that energy for her. So for this prompt, I'm going to choose Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a horror book sitting at around 208 pages. We have our main character who is trying to date this guy, I want to say, but she's really not interested in him. He's some rich guy, and really what she wants to do is meet his mother and get this networking connection because his mother's some important lady. I don't know the details. So she goes with this guy to his parents' house to meet the family. But unfortunately for her, this is the worst day she could have chosen because today of all days, the servants have decided to revolt. And I believe they're going on a killing spree because they are very upset by the way that they have been treated by this really rich family. And of course, they're part of the 1%, so this is taking place on this big, huge mansion on this private island. So everybody's essentially trapped at this point. This book sounds like a lot of fun. So I'm excited to actually put this on the TBR, and it's not super long, so I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to get through this one. Now that my nerd is back for revenge, the prompt on her card says to read a sci-fi or fantasy book. And let's not forget that her perk is that if I add a book to my TBR that is 400 or more pages, I can change one of the other prompts to a mood read. Okay, I'm gonna be strategic here because I really want that mood read. Normally, I don't read long books. It is extremely hard for me to pick up a book that is over 400 pages, so this is a challenge. But I have a current goal. If you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I have been trying to get through the entire Hunger Games series. Now, I recently found out that the Sunrise on the Reaping movie adaptation is coming out in November. So this makes me want to actually read the whole series even more so because I would love to go to the theater and watch that movie with everybody else. Now, if you're paying attention to my previous videos, you will have seen that I already read the first book. I have a spoiler vlog that you can go back and watch if you're interested in that. And as of today, I am currently reading book 2. Now, what am I getting at here? None of these books are over 400 pages, except for one. And that is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, of course, by Suzanne Collins. So my strategy is to add that book to my TBR for this prompt. This is risky because it's gonna force me to get through Catching Fire and Mockingjay so that I can get to the prequels. I don't want to read the prequels before I finish the main trilogy. So that means I need to get a move on and actually catch up. But it's something that I want to do anyways, so this is just going to be an extra motivation and push. Now, I'm going to be honest right now, I'm not excited to get to that book. It is 528 pages according to Goodreads. That is so long, especially for a book that most people say is the worst one in the entire series. So I'm not super confident that I'm gonna make it. But I've added it to my TBR and it is over 400 pages, therefore, I've secured myself a mood read. Okay, it looks like the killer that I chose for August is the drowned one. Now, this is a killer, as you can probably tell, that is inspired by Jason from the iconic slasher franchise Friday the 13th. To escape from him, I'm choosing the prompt to read a book with a body of water on the cover. And for this one, I'm choosing Whale Fall by Daniel Kraus. This is a horror book that's also getting a film adaptation coming out very soon in October. Now, I have to say that originally when I first heard about this book, I added it to my TBR knowing nothing about it, except that it was making people cry. And I love a book that can make me cry. So I was like, I don't even care what this is about. I want to sob. I'm adding this to my TBR. Now, since then, I have learned what the synopsis is. So our main character is trying to find the remains of his deceased father in the Pacific Ocean, and he understands that this is a long shot, but he wants to try. This gets really complicated when he runs into a giant squid, and then to make matters even worse, a huge sperm whale appears ready to eat said squid. Our main character is tangled up in this act of nature and gets swallowed by the whale. This is giving me Jonah and the whale. If you've heard of that Bible story, you know what I'm talking about. But he basically is trying to escape the belly of this beast so that he can survive. I believe the synopsis says that he only has 1 hour of oxygen in his tank. So I already have so much anxiety thinking about how quickly this is going to be moving. I'm assuming this sounds tragic, and I don't know. Like I don't know if he's going to make it or not, and I'm already excited to find out what's going to happen because what a crazy premise. This book is compared to the movie 127 Hours, which I have seen, and that movie again gave me so much anxiety watching it because you're just so nervous. Like you just want him to make it out, and you're just like, come on, like you're running out of time. Like is he gonna make it? Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be exciting. Is he gonna make it? I'm scared. My first roll landed me on a victim space, so because I have no weapon to fight off the killer, this victim goes to the killer's body count. Because I chose the guide, her prompt is to choose from the first 3 books I see on my social media feed. Now, because this prompt doesn't give me a lot of choice, and I really have my heart set on reading a specific book, I'm going to use my mood read. So instead of having to get a book by chance, I'm just going to choose the book that I want to read this month, Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. I feel like I've been talking about this book a lot lately, but if you haven't been here before, I'll let you know that this is my favorite book of all time. So this is going to be a reread for me. I've been wanting to read it again because it's been many years and I'm very curious to see if it's going to have the same impact on me as it did in the past. I have this book on such a high pedestal that I can't imagine not loving it, but I am very curious to reread it and see if it still holds that #1 place on my favorite books list. This is a sapphic historical fiction where we follow a young girl named Nan King. One day she goes to a music hall and sees a male impersonator, and she becomes absolutely infatuated with this woman. She ends up going to every single one of her performances and even gets the chance to finally meet her. I love that throughout this book, it's not just a romance, it's a story of how Nan grows and develops as a person, how she learns to become more open with herself and her sexuality. She explores out in the world. She meets so many new people. I could go into detail about what she experiences along the way, but for me, I felt like that was the journey I took with her, and I kind of don't want to tell you because that was the joy of my journey with her, is just not knowing where this was going to go and just seeing where her life took her along the way. So I would highly encourage you to read this. This is such a unique, one-of-a-kind read that I've just never found anything quite like it. I've even tried reading other books by Sarah Waters, and it's just not exactly the same. This book just feels like a lightning in a bottle experience, and I think that's what makes it so special, is that you can't find this story in 10 other books, and it just makes it that much more special for me. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this book, but when I do find somebody who has read it, it's like this immediate connection of like, you know what I'm talking about, and we can totally relate because you love this as much as I love this, and I feel like this instant bond, like, wow, you like this thing that is so unique and special, just like I do. So if you've read this book, let me know how you feel about it and if you have that kind of love for it the way that I do, because I don't know, it's just so exciting to find a book that you just love so much. And I'm just curious how other people feel about it. I've made so many of my friends read this book, and everybody that I've had read it has really loved it and enjoyed it. And it's okay if you don't love this book as much as I do, but I still recommend that you read it. It's honestly one of those things where I don't even care if nobody else likes this book. I just love it so much, and I am so excited to reread it. And not only reread it, but take my time with it and annotate it and just document my feelings so that I have this treasure to go back and look on every time I want to go back and pick it up again. Okay, I landed on a weapon space, and for this one, I drew the machete. This is the first time this has ever happened that I've actually drawn the weapon that matches the killer. This is a rare occasion, the first time in documented history here on my channel. So when you get the weapon that matches the killer that you are currently up against, you get to use the weapon's bonus effect. And that means that this weapon can take away 2 of the killer's lives instead of just 1. So that's super exciting, and I'm glad that we've all finally got to see that part of the game in action. That means all I need to do is land on a killer space, and the game's over. Okay, let's not get ahead of myself. First, I need to choose a book to add to my TBR. So the prompt for the machete is to read a book that takes place primarily outdoors. For this one, I'm choosing the 132-page novella, The Extra by Annie Neugebauer. The premise of this is so strange and interesting. I'm really excited to get to it. So this is a horror sci-fi where 10 people head out on a backpacking trip. However, the first night when they're setting up camp, there's 11 people. Everybody remembers everybody else, so who's the extra? Isn't that absolutely intriguing? I am so curious. How could you not want to just jump in and find out what's going on? I've been wanting to read this one for a while, and it's so short, so I'm excited to get to this one in August. Okay, so I landed on another weapon space, but I'm obviously not planning to trade this weapon, so I'm just gonna ignore this and we're gonna move on. My next roll landed me on a location space, And I feel like this game is fitting together so perfectly. The location I grabbed was Cabin in the Woods. Can you just picture the whole game in your head right now? We have a nerd in the cabin in the woods, and the killer, the drowned one, is stalking her through the outdoors, and she has the machete to try to fight him off. I feel like this whole thing is playing out like a perfect film in my brain. I love it. Iconic. Okay, anyways, the prompt for Cabin in the Woods is to read a book set in the forest or the countryside. For this one, I'm choosing On Sundays She Picked Flowers by Yaya Schofield. This is a Southern Gothic horror novel revolving around a woman who escapes to the forest to escape from her trauma and abuse, only to come across a haunted house filled with ghosts and haunts that has an even more violent history than her own. She ends up spending 13 years in this house, developing into this wise healer woman. And then one day, another woman travels to the forest and discovers her and this house. I'm not exactly sure where it goes, but it says that our main character is instantly enamored with this other woman, and it starts to stir up these violent urges. I'm just intrigued because a couple other people that I've seen review this book have rated it 5 stars, specifically Bree from Locked Booktition and Rochelle from Good Morning Dreamer. Both of these awesome booktubers have given this book such high praise that it has made me want to bump this way up onto my want to read list. So this is the perfect opportunity to get this on my TBR and see what all the hype is about. Okay, that's it. My last roll landed me on a killer space, and because I had the machete, I was able to injure the killer and take 2 of his lives, leaving him with 0. This completes the game, and I now have my August TBR set and ready to go. I'm really excited about all 6 books that made it onto the TBR for this month, and I'm so happy to be playing the game again. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And don't forget to keep an eye out for an announcement video coming very soon. That means to subscribe if you haven't already, and then hit the notification bell so you get notified the next time I post a video. If you're still here, leave me a whale emoji in the comments to let me know that you made it to the very end of the video. I appreciate you so much for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!